What's up, Raptors fans? Welcome to the Warriors Report. It's time to talk about some Raptors rumor updates. There's a lot of news this past week regarding the Toronto Raptors. One of them was linking the Toronto Raptors to Kevin Durant, and we also got some news about how the Raptors could potentially make some trades after a specific amount of time. I'm going to be breaking that down, as well as we got a potential update regarding the Pascal Siakam injury and how long he's going to be out. So if you're ready to watch this video, guys, make sure to hit the subscribe button. That would be very much appreciated. And with that being said, let's get into today's video. Now, there's no shout out for today's video, guys, because no one was able to guess my Halloween costume. And I was dressed up as Thor, as you see here. And no, that is not my real hair. That is an actual wig. But let's talk about some more fun and important stuff regarding the Toronto Raptors. Now, shout out to Rhapsody, who had posted this, that the Raptors will be suitors once again for Kevin Durant. The source was Howard Beck. And this is what he had to say regarding the Toronto Raptors and the Kevin Durant situation. And he said the Raptors will again be suitors, though the Nets would probably have to settle for a package of picks and some assortment of OG Anunoby, Fred VanVleet, or Gary Trent Jr. No one believes Toronto will give up All-Star Pascal Siakam or rising star, Scottie Barnes. Now, obviously, this is a given because the Raptors weren't willing to package Scottie Barnes in the offseason, so he's absolutely a no-show. Now, before people are quick to jump the gun and say, here we go again, we don't need Kevin Durant, let's use some logic, guys. Let's use some real logic in terms of discussing what the Raptors need. What has been one of the biggest concerns ever since Kawhi has left, and even before Kawhi Leonard had left, was that the Raptors offense has staggering moments. Oftentimes, we've seen this even in the last few games where they go minutes, several minutes, sometimes even 5-6 minutes without getting a basket. So as attractive as his roster looks, and I know people will say, let's continue to build on it, I think it's safe to say that the Raptors, if given the opportunity, they will trade absolutely for Kevin Durant. He's a bucket getter. He's someone that the Raptors could lean on to get him a basket in those droughts, and also just someone they need in the playoffs, because the Raptors struggled in the playoffs scoring-wise last season. They averaged 103 points. Let's be completely honest. Averaging 103 points is not only going to be very challenging to win playoff games, you're not going to win a playoff series averaging 103 points. That's a very low number. And no, this isn't 2007 where you could just win games averaging a little bit above the 100-point mark in terms of offensively. I know the Raptors' defense is good, but Kevin Durant can push them over the top and really help their offense in the playoffs, but also even during the regular season. As good as Pascal Siakam has been in terms of shot creation, he would undeniably benefit from having someone like a Kevin Durant, who is one of the most unguardable players in the entire NBA. Now, before people say, well, he choked in the playoffs last season, let's discuss a few things. He actually averaged 26 points, which would have been the highest on the Toronto Raptors. And not only that, he's never averaged less than 25 points in the playoffs in his entire career. So sure, he may have struggled a little bit shooting-wise, efficiency-wise last year against a really good Boston Celtics team. There's absolutely no denying his offensive talent. Now, obviously, the issue with the Raptors is, who are they willing to give up? I don't think they give up Pascal, as stated in the article. I don't think they're giving up Scottie, and it has to be a package somewhere between Fred VanVleet and OG Anunoby and Gary Trent Jr., which becomes very, very difficult to give up. But again, we'll see. These are just rumors. We don't know how much truth there is to it. And before people suggest that Kevin Durant already stated that he's staying with the Brooklyn Nets, I do want to mention a few factors, guys. Kyrie Irving being the biggest. He's suspended for 5 games, and some people have even gone as far as to say he's played his last game for the Brooklyn Nets. So if he gets traded or whatever the issue is there, he gets released. I don't think he will. But if he's played his last game with the Brooklyn Nets, Kevin Durant is definitely not staying on this roster. Let's be completely honest. Ben Simmons has been very frustrating. Apparently, according to rumors, it's been Kevin Durant has been really frustrated in the Nets organization, have been really frustrated with Ben Simmons and maybe his progress and his foul takes. That he's been getting a lot of fouls and he's been fouling out a lot. So if Kevin Durant is stuck with Ben Simmons, and that said, he's definitely requesting a trade again. And even given their record isn't the greatest, they're close to the bottom of the East as opposed to the top. They're struggling. I know they just hired Ime Udoka, but again, if that doesn't work, how do you solve the Nets' issues? They fired their coach. Now Kyrie Irving is all sorts of controversy. So what goes on with the Brooklyn Nets? I think he'd be a great addition to the Toronto Raptors, but I know you guys will not agree with me, but I do want to hear your thoughts. Let's move on to the next topic here. And this was by Doug Smith. Shout out to Rhapsody once again. And he stated that the Raptors will use about 20 to 25 games to evaluate the roster before making any trades. And this makes sense. Again, I'm going to tie this into the Kevin Durant situation, because before people state that we don't need to make a trade, we got a very good young roster. Let me ask you one question. And again, this is going back to Kevin Durant. What have we been hearing from the Toronto Raptors fans this entire season? Fred VanVleet isn't the guy to take you to a championship, nor is Gary Trent Jr., nor is OG Anunoby. Scottie Barnes isn't there. Obviously, we're not talking about him in terms of getting traded, but a lot of people have consistently mentioned these three names as guys that won't take you to the championship run or even make it there. So why not include potentially? Again, I would hate to give up OG Anunoby, guys. Don't get me wrong. OG's having a defensive player type of year, but I would hate to give up OG Anunoby. In terms of Fred and Gary, though, why would you not want to package them for an all-star like Kevin Durant? Even if you had to throw in a prospect in there, you absolutely make the deal because you get the best player in the entire league, scoring-wise anyways. You could argue that with Luka Doncic and Giannis having the season that he is. But in terms of shooting-wise, like he's right up there. Curry is obviously a better shooter, but isolation plays, Kevin Durant is absolutely unstoppable. And obviously this, making roster changes. Now, people are obviously going to question, why would Masai Ujiri trade players when we're doing perfectly fine? We're sitting at the top of the Eastern Conference. It's simply because one reason, guys. Gary Trent Jr., Fred VanVleet are heading into contract seasons. Undoubtedly, they're going to opt out, and either the Raptors have to make a choice of taking that risk of potentially losing them in free agency, not so much Fred VanVleet, but potentially Gary Trent Jr., or they move him now for something more attractive, or they have a lot of good players. Again, solid players, not all-stars, solid players. I know Fred VanVleet was an all-star, but a lot of good players that they can package for an all-star star player. So I think it makes a lot of sense when you think about it. I think Masai Ujiri ultimately will move some of these players. Again, not suggesting two of these players, but I think some sort of trades will happen potentially regarding Gary Trent Jr. He's gone on Masai Ujiri. He's gone on record of mentioning OG Anunoby, Pascal, and OG, Pascal, and Fred VanVleet in several interviews as being the core pieces, guys. So maybe Gary Trent gets moved before anyone, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what the Raptors roster changes include, and also to throw in the fact that they have attractive contracts in terms of the challenging part. What the Raptors last season for trading for any player was, outside of their starting five, they didn't have guys making a lot of money. Now they have Thaddeus Young. You can throw in different pieces in there. So you could potentially acquire a good bench piece as well. Again, not to necessarily say they'll trade for Kevin Durant. There's also guys out there like Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, Jordan Clarkson is still out there, Lauri Markkanen. Again, we don't know what happens. We'll see. It's going to be a fun season. But let's talk about the latest news regarding the Pascal Siakam injury. Now, this one is kind of a bummer. And again, it's not confirmed and it is not official. This was shout out to Rap City. Once again, you guys are the best. The source for this one was Ali Rendley. So again, this is just a doctor stating that he potentially could be out for about a couple of weeks to a month. I don't think it'll be a couple of months. It could potentially be about 3 to 4 weeks. And no, I'm not a doctor, and I'm not suggesting that's actually going to be his timeline. The reason I said this was actually someone had posted online that last time he had a groin injury, he was out about 22, 23 days, which is, I mean, given how many games you may play, about anywhere from 10 to 15 games. So that could be a huge loss for the Toronto Raptors. But this is a chance for a lot of the young guys. And a lot of Raptors fans have been saying this entire offseason was trade Pascal, trade Fred VanVleet, give the keys to the young guys. So obviously Fred VanVleet won't be out as long as Pascal, but Fred VanVleet is out the next few games. We'll see how the Raptors perform. Scottie Barnes has to take this opportunity to absolutely showcase the superstar that everyone is claiming he'll be. Now, I love Scottie Barnes, and this isn't to put Scottie Barnes down in any way. I just don't think offensively in terms of scoring wise, he's there yet. And obviously it's insane that he's able to improve his shooting as much as he has. But we've seen that last game versus the Dallas where he struggled a little bit being aggressive, but not only that, in terms of shot creation as well. So I think he benefits playing with guys like Pascal and Fred. Obviously, Fred isn't a shot creator, but he's a good three-point shooter. But in terms of what he's capable of doing, let's see, man. The ceiling, I should say the sky is the ceiling. I'm not saying that correctly, but you guys know what I mean. But the sky's the limit for him, man. That's what I'm trying to say, guys. The sky's the limit for him. So let's see what happens with the next few games. Obviously, it's going to be a huge take. It's going to be a huge chance for OG Anunoby to also take that offensive opportunity that he hasn't really gotten over the years because of Pascal, Fred, now Gary being there as well. So he could potentially be the number 2-3 option on most nights. So we'll see some of the things that he's able to do, as well as there may be some surprise guys. Maybe we get to see Malachi Flynn in more minutes. Maybe we get to see Precious Achiuwa in bigger roles. We'll see what happens. But this is a very interesting time period for the Raptors. Obviously, unfortunate injury for Pascal Siakam. He was playing like an all-star. We'll see what happens. So we'll see what happens. But I do want to hear your thoughts. What are your thoughts on this? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. And as always, guys, I do have a trivia question for you today. And that trivia question is, which member of the Raptors coaching staff has not played in the NBA? Is it A, Earl Watson? Is it B, Nate Bjorkgren? Is it C, Jamal McGlure, or is it D, Adrian Griffin? So whoever answers this trivia question correctly first in the comment section gets a shout out in my next video. So that will be it for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you guys have yourselves a great day.